Hey YouTube. Hopefully y'all can hear me. I'm back in with another live video. I know it's been a little minute, but I'm back again. And in today's live video, I am going to get back to reading this book, which is Rest in Power, The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin by Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin. And we are on chapter 7. Like I say in any other video, if you haven't been caught up, please feel free to watch the previous videos where I have been reading this book. Um, so far, we know that in this book, each chapter is titled by the first name of each parent, whether it's the mother, Sabrina Fulton, or Tracy Martin, which is the father, speaking about the events that occurred before, during, and after the death of their son, Trayvon Martin. This is Sabrina, March 9th, 2012 to March 16th, 2012. We left Miami for Sanford at around 8 p.m. Hold on, I'm going to turn the light on so I can see it. We left Miami for Sanford at around 8 p.m., riding in a Toyota Camry belonging to my cousin Penny, who I call Shug because she's so sweet. I sat in the back seat with my mother and my sister while Gerard sat in front listening to music through his headphones. Along the way, my cell phone exploded, call after call, friends, family, and media. We're on our way, I would tell the friends and family, I'm okay, just pray for us. After driving 4 hours from Miami, we pulled up to our hotel in Lake Mary, a small Orlando suburb 10 minutes from Sanford. The feelings I held off during the car trip returned now that we were so close to Sanford, and I was dropped again into a deep gloom. Tracy came to meet me in the lobby of the hotel. I was quiet. He was pushing me to join him in action, which meant taking our tragedy and our grief to the media. Come on, we gotta do this, he kept telling me. And I kept saying, I'm going home. I can't do this. But I stayed, and soon we were a team for Trayvon. People thought we were still together as a couple because they never saw the disconnect that most divorced couples have. We were now drawn together in our love for our sons and our fight for justice for the one who had died. Just as we had always done, we had to put everything that separated us as a married couple aside and do the best we could for our kids. This were, there was one more thing I had to put aside: blame. I could blame Tracy for even taking him to Sanford, where he was shot and killed. I could have been angry at him for what happened, just as I was the time when Gerards came home with a broken toe after a few weeks with Tracy one summer. I yelled at Tracy then. I can't believe this. I sent him off with you, and now his toe is hanging off to the side. But I knew how much he loved his sons, knew how much he loves all children, and how he acted around them. So I never felt that Tracy didn't do his best, or that he didn't care. I let thoughts of blame go. It was after midnight by the time we finished talking, and I went up to my room. I said my prayers. I pled the blood of Jesus to cover me and my family. The alarm rang just after dawn the next morning, and we were up and driving, following Tracy's directions to the retreat at Twin Lakes, to Brandy's townhouse, to the place I imagined 1,000 times in my mind since that first phone call from Tracy 2 weeks ago. Tracy and the attorneys Benjamin Crump and Natalie Jackson were waiting for us there. We turned the corner, and for the first time, I could see the community where my son was killed. The retreat was a nice, clean development, but beside the big black entrance gate, I saw something that shook me. A memorial. I had to look twice to see that it was a memorial for my son. There was football, teddy bears, signs, cards, and letters with the name Trayvon on them. Everything in tribute to my angel. That memorial, that outpouring from strangers touched me deeply in a way the place denied. The retreat was a crime scene, but the memorial was a gift. Strangers telling us through these cards and small tokens of childhood that they knew that the body on the ground was a boy, a human alive, and that his killing wouldn't be forgotten. Soon the memorial would be gone. The city of Stanford or the people who rented the retreat didn't want it at the gate as a reminder of what happened. Once we were inside the townhouse, I didn't look outside and I wasn't about to go into that backyard to see where Trayvon was shot and killed. I was doing my best to keep my focus and my composure. In the living room, I met Ben Crump and Natalie Jackson. Crump, which is what we call him from the day we met him, was compassionate, professional, and always dressed in a suit and tie. But I could tell he was country, not country in a bad way, more like Southern gentleman country. He and Natalie were down to earth people who made us feel comfortable, and I immediately had confidence in them. That night, and every day I saw him, he kept saying over and over again that we need to do media to get our message out. Sabrina, this case is going to be swept under the rug, he would say. They're not going to arrest George Zimmerman. People want to hear from the parents. People need to hear from you about how you felt about him, the man who murdered your son, not being arrested. We have to get the story out. You have to tell a story of what happened to Trayvon. A thing that kept rising up in our tragedy was the issue of race. People were already comparing Trayvon's death to Emmett Till, the 14-year-old from Chicago, visiting the family in Muncie, Mississippi, where he was lynched on August 28, 1955, after being accused of flirting with a white woman. At the first, but at first, I felt that our case had little to do with race, at least as far as whether people would find the story sympathetic or not. When I hear a child has drowned, I don't care what race or nationality the child was. I don't say, oh, it was a black kid. It doesn't matter. A child has lost a life. When I hear about the death of a child, I think about the parents, the family, the siblings, the friends who are grieving the loss. Who cares about race in the face of that kind of tragedy and injustice? But the more I found out about my son's killing, the more I started to wonder if it wasn't race, what else could it be? Those thoughts were racing through my head the first time I went into the government office in Sanford. Crump said he wanted us to go with him to file the paperwork demanding the release of the 911 techniques. So my sister Mama Gerardis and I piled into one car with Tracy and the attorneys in another, a two-car caravan. We exited the Florida Turnpike and took a small road toward downtown where we were greeted with a sign by the side of the road, "Welcome to Sanford," whose bland cheerfulness chilled me. We drove to Sanford's little downtown and went to the clerk's office where Crump filed the papers demanding the release of the tapes. Tracy and I didn't actually have to be there, but we wanted to be there to show our support. When we came outside the courthouse, the media was waiting for us. I was still raw, numb, and unsure of what to say. I was strong enough to get out of bed, get out my house, get out of Miami, and travel to Sanford, but I still wasn't strong enough to speak to the media and the public about what had happened to my son. But there I was, standing in front of the clerk of course building on Friday, March 9, 2012, just 12 days after my son's death. The media gathered around us in a semi circle. Blinding camera lights, stares from a dozen strangers, everyone waiting for us to speak. My son left Sanford, Florida in the body bag, while George Zimmerman went home to sleep in his own bed, said Tracy. It was my turn to speak, but my voice was deep inside me and it was hard to get it out. I was visibly trembling, and when I finally spoke, my voice came out high pitched and at times unclear. My mother, my sister, and Gerard stood behind me for support, but I was adrift. I was on the verge of tears and a breakdown right there in Sanford's courthouse square. I started. It was very difficult, and it was very difficult for me to deal with. I gasped for breath, but a few words followed. I don't understand why we haven't gotten the answers from the police department, I said. I don't understand. And I don't understand why my baby, I mean, at this point, I lost my train of thought. Then begin again. Why this guy was not arrested. Now I was crying. I don't understand. As a mother, my heart is broken. Sobbing now, big tears rolling down my face, gasping for breath, flailing. My heart hurts. I said, I don't understand. He was just a kid. He was just a baby. I shook my head back and forth, and Gerard leaned in and kissed the back of my shoulder for support. The report asks, what's the hardest part for you when you wake up every morning knowing your son is not around? I wiped my eyes and tried to regain my composure. Just having to deal with him not being with me, I said. Just having to deal with him not smiling. Just having to deal with him not trying to help me and take care of me. It's just very, damn, I'm reading all wrong. I tried to wipe the tears away. The reporter interrupted, ma'am, knowing the circumstances of this. was the man who pulled the trigger vigilance that night. Tracy answered for me. I honestly think he was, Tracy said. He approached him for no apparent reason. It was cold outside. My son had on a hoodie. Does that give you the right to approach an individual just because he has a hoodie on and it was raining? He was 20 to 100 yards away from the back door trying to get home. Tracy said. Crump added, Bob, we can call this guy a vigilance because a vigilance would say that something had been done to him. He said, Trayvon did absolutely nothing to this guy. He was just walking home. He was 20 yards from his home with a bag of Skittles and a can of iced tea when this guy confronted him, disregarding the police. I'm guessing that's the news they got because in this book they keep saying IC, and then later on is a watermelon flavored drink. I don't know. This guy did not have resist it, the resist, the requisite. I don't know. Training to try to approach and detain this young man. Crump continued. If somebody came up to you in plain clothes as night falls and tells you, I'm going to detain you, just wait here. Why would Trayvon not say, who are you? On the way to the courthouse, the reporter had shown us the killer's mugshot from his previous arrest. Now, during our press conference, the same reporter showed me the mugshot again on her phone. I'm going to show you his picture, and I want you to look at the picture because I want you to determine something. She said, he's your son. Do you know him best? If he saw this man approach him, do you think your son would be afraid and kind of get a little agitated by the whole thing? He's much heavier than him. He's older than him, I said of the man in the picture. He would have been afraid. He would have tried to protect himself. Why hadn't the police shown Tracy or Crump the picture already, I wondered. Then Crump returned to the matter of the tapes. Why wouldn't they release the tape to the public? Why won't they tell this family the truth? We deserve answers. We left the courthouse and went to a restaurant and then returned to the hotel to wait for the judge's decision on the tapes. The decision came later that day. The tapes would not be released at this time, but a hearing on the matter was scheduled for more than a week away. We ended up going home, driving back to Miami, still with more questions than answers. Back home, we went to Antioch. We're on the evening of Sunday, March 11th. We had a candlelight vigil, or vigil for Trayvon. It was a small but emotional group of us, family, friends, and members of the church community. All of us gathered outside the church. I was sleepwalking through everything, but I could see the church. Its outdoor stairs filled with people. Everyone out on the stairs in the drizzle holding candles. My brother Mark passed some candles to us and we lit them. Watching those candles flickering and sputtering from the rain, I could feel myself falling apart all over again. But I was there, and so were they. this band of supporters, and I had to see them to greet them, embrace them, and thank them for caring. The crowd began singing the church songs that I love, but now they all sound sad and were painful to hear. Just get through this, I told myself. Along with our friends and family came the media. A small podium was set up. One of my aunts said an opening prayer. Someone else recited a poem to Trayvon, and we began to pray. Just then, as the darkness descended, it began to rain a little more. Came, the wind became gusty, and we huddled under a big church's eaves to say a few words in memory of Trayvon. Not only did I lose a son, I lost my best friend, said Tracy. I was still too distraught to speak at length, but we were among family and friends in our hometown, so I said a few words. I think it's just profound. I said, I think it had something to do with the fact that he was a young black African American kid. We need answers and we need justice, said Tracy. Not only are we looking for an arrest, we're looking for a conviction. The rain came down harder, and some of the candles flickered and went out. More prayers were said, along with more demands for justice, and then we all went home to prepare for what we know would be a very busy week ahead. Monday, March 12th, began with a press conference by Sanford Police Chief Bill Lee outside the Sanford City Hall. He had been chief for only 11 months and would be the first time the public and the media would come face to face with the police in this case. And it was tense. We couldn't be there, but Miss Auer attended and told us all about it. She was among a group of citizens, mostly from the nearby Black Goldsboro community, who came to the city hall to hear the chief speak and to hear it if he was going to at last arrest the man who shot my son. Northern Bonaparte, a black city manager, was with Chief Lee, said, I can't talk. Miss Alford told us. And the chief had his whole department almost behind him. His surgeons, his lieutenants, his officers. We don't have anything to dispute his claim of self-defense at this point with the evidence, the chief said, as to why they wouldn't arrest the killer, adding that the police had told him not to confront Trayvon or take any action and to wait for the police to arrive. He later elaborated in the memo posted on the city's website by Florida statute. Law enforcement was prohibited from making an arrest based on the facts and circumstances they had at the time. Initially, when any police officer makes an arrest for any reason, the officer must swear and affirm that he or she is making the arrest in good faith and with probable cause. If the arrest is done maliciously in bad faith, the officer in the city may be held liable. He said that the police were turning over the case to prosecutors in the state attorney's office, which meant that our investigation was coming to a close, apparently without an arrest. The report spoke up. When someone shouts and kills someone, they get arrested. I mean, when someone shoots and kills someone, they get arrested. She said, "Why are you passing the buck in this case and putting it on prosecutors to make a determination on whether he should be arrested? Because it is the proper thing to do." She immediately responded, "By statute, if someone makes a statement in self-defense, unless we have probable cause to dispute that, we cannot make an arrest." Miss Albert watched as the conversation grew well, if not heated, at least tense. "Hang there, Chief, hang in there," Miss Albert said. She told Bill Lee after he completed his press conference. "Thank you, Miss Albert," she said. He replied. And it's a long chapter. Jesus Christ. It's one thing to read a book, but just reading it silently to yourself, but reading it out loud, you start to get tired after a while. On Wednesday, March 14th, the protest moved to Sanford's Island Chapel, the old NAACP affiliated church in the Goldsboro community. An overflow crowded of 400 plus citizens and members of the media packed the pews, rafters, even the Amen corner where the deacons and other dignitaries usually sit. Hold on, y'all. What the hell is this? Who the hell is this? I don't know what where the hell that came from. It sound like sending spam messages. Jamal Bryant, a young and eloquent pastor in Baltimore's megachurch called the Pyramid Temple was the first of many national black leaders to make a pilgrimage, pilgrimage, to Sanford, and he was picked to speak at the rally. He began promoting his visit long before his arrival. Headed to Orlando, Florida to help mobilize community for Trayvon justice. He alerted his 745,000 followers on Facebook and 225,000 on Twitter. Meet at Island Church in Stanford at 12:30. Come. Don't meet me there, beat me there. People started arriving at the church early that Wednesday evening. Outside, there were protesters with signs, no rest until arrest. Men wearing symbolic hoodies, vendors selling unauthorized Trayvon t-shirts, and a steady stream of supporters. We come together today in the name of justice, Pastor Lowry Henry told the congregation at the outset. We stand as his voice, meaning Trayvon's voice. We will stand even if I stand alone, said Miss Velma Williams, the city commissioner, who told the crowd she asked Police Chief Bill Lee to step aside. Then Jamal O'Brien in his dark suit, colorful tie, and big black glasses, looking more like a stylish professor. Then the pastor walked into the pulpit and up to the podium. We call for an immediate arrest, he said. We want him behind bars. This is a wake-up call for the state of Florida. 400 voices thundered in agreement throughout the church. We are going to shut Florida down until justice waits down. He said. Then he then asked everyone to take out a pen and paper, and he gave them a phone number of the Seminole County State Attorney's office call number and demand criminal charges and arrests, he said. 400 hands wrote down the number. No justice, said Jamal Bryan. No peace, responded the congregation. He would say more later that evening, and then even more at other rallies, among which were some of the furious benedictions on the case, including what he said before the church rally on the Michael Bazin show. I feel like I'm in the time zone. Just 3 weeks ago, we were in a march from Selma to Montgomery, and it feels like we are back to Selma all over again. If you got skills, everybody better eat Snickers because it's really a wake-up call that racism is still alive and our children had to be educated about the process. Thinking about justice and mercy and grace, Frederick Douglass said, I prayed for 20 years. Nothing happened until I got off my knees and started marching with my feet. And that's the role of the church. We already prayed about it Now let's take action on it. You've come to worship, now leave to serve. It's not just about shouting, it's what are you doing after the benediction. We're asking everybody who can make it to Sanford to send a bag of Skittles to the sheriff's department, and they're going to keep inundating them until he understands that this is something that is not sweet to us. 400 voices screamed, Amen. People were crying, shouting, ready for action, eager for justice. A congregation of individuals had become one. Sanford's mayor, Jeff Triplett, had come to Raleigh too. He soon stood saying that his two young sons attended school not far from the church. Today, when I drove over there, I thought to myself, what if? This is a lot to damn read. I'm gonna come back a little later because this is a lot to read. Y'all like, comment, subscribe, and like I said, I'm gonna come back a little later.